Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I am Umair bin Abid and you are watching my Linguistics. So in this video we look at some multiple choice questions of chapter 2 Animals and Human Language. Alright. So what I always suggest that before doing any multiple choice questions, read the chapter carefully and underline the important information. Alright. So the MCQs which I am going to share with you, and I'll also explain the distractors. So these are taken by the publisher Cambridge University Press. So first MCQ is, which property of human language enables us to take one word 10 apart and create another word net? So for example, how we can create net from the word 10? Actually, once again, they are not asking just a very simple statement that with which property we can convert sounds into different words, or we can convert one combination of sounds into another combination. So this is how, which I was discussing in the last chapter as well, that this is how a good MCQ is made. So actually, how which property enables us to make net from 10? So this is actually the duality. Duality means that our language is at two levels. At one level we have sounds, and from the combination of sounds we create different words. So the sounds are only three: t and t, a and n. But with these three sounds we are creating different words. So it is duality. All right. So one might think, if we do not read the chapter carefully, we might say this is open-endedness. So this is how a distractor is made, because this also seems to be open-endedness, or this also seems to be creativity, but actually this property technically is known as duality. The second question is, which property allows us to use language to talk about language? Which property allows us to use language to talk about language? So with which property we can talk about language, about our own language? So this is one of the properties which distinguish us human beings from animals. So if we look at the options, arbitrariness. So one way to do MCQ is to uh, skip out the options which you think this cannot be. So for example, arbitrariness, no. Arbitrariness is a different property, which means that there is no natural connection between the word and its meaning. Cultural transmission, never. Displacement, no. Displacement allows us to talk about future, past, and etc. Glossolalia, no. It is speaking in tongues. Productivity, yes, this can be. Because productivity allows us to make different expressions. And reflexivity, so this is the closest option, and actually this is the correct option, reflexivity, because it means to reflect on language. We can reflect on our own language, like we can say that some persons use complex language, some person use simple language, some person speaks very fast. All right, so technically this property is reflexivity, and this is the correct answer. The third is, which of the chimpanzees learned to communicate using plastic shapes? Now, this is one of the MCQ which we called that it is totally based on your knowledge. It checks your knowledge about the content. So if you have read, then only then you can answer. Otherwise, you cannot answer this question, because this is not somewhat related to the any concept. So the answer to this is Sarah. Now the fourth one, the second last is, what was the key element in Kanzi's learning? Now this is somewhat related to your understanding of the chapter. It is checking your comprehension. So Kanzi's the main element in Kanzi's learning was uh, So if we look at the options, we can say interaction using sign language because Kanzi was doing this, or Yerkish, or practicing response to cues, taking part in conversation. So these all things was done by Kanzi. Kanzi was doing all of these things. But what is what has been asked in the MCQ? The key element. So the key element which distinguished Kanzi from other chimpanzee, that was exposure to language in use. All right. The last MCQ is which two properties are evidenced in Washow's use of signs in waterbird to refer to swan. So Washoe was using actually uh, waterbird to refer to a swan. Now we say it's swan, but Washoe was using the sign language, sign language, the sign which is used for a water bird. So actually, Washoe was showing two signs: productivity, because it is productivity, because Washoe was not using the same sign as of human beings, but Washoe was using another sign, all right, which seems to be made by Washoe, all right. And the other was the other property is analogy. Analogy means that Washoe was creating, or uh, Washoe was creating connection between words, and Washoe was using one word for another concept. So both these properties are productivity and analogy. This has nothing to do with cultural transmission, and neither any connection with displacement or double articulation or fixed reference, because fixed reference means you cannot use language, but only which is uh, genetically inherited to you, which is the main property of most of the humans language. But all of these chimpanzees were studied, and they provided these results. So I hope you have understood it. uh, you can subscribe this channel if you like it, because sometimes I really need your support. So thank you and jazakallah.